If you're watching this, I want you to understand what a real day in the life of a pro basketball player overseas looks like. I repeat, this is a real, authentic day in the life. I've been playing professional basketball overseas for 6+ years now, for multiple clubs and in multiple countries. I've learned over the years what works best for me, and I want to share that with you so you can better understand if overseas basketball might be something for you. The aim of this video is not to sugarcoat anything or make my life look more glamorous than it is. I'm stoked on what basketball has given me in my life, but with anything, there's pros and cons. I wake up almost every morning around 7 a.m., not because I read some billionaire's Steps to Success book or anything, but because I want to FaceTime with my wife who lives in our home just outside of Seattle. The time difference is 9 hours apart between Seattle and Lisbon. Because of this, we try and plan our calls ahead of time. Today, of course, unfortunately, I didn't catch her, so I'll try again before I go to bed. Every morning I start with the same rituals. For instance, I make my bed, something I learned as a kid and still do to this day. Small little feeling of accomplishment to start each and every one of my days. I'm a coffee lover and it's a crucial part of my morning routine. As a professional athlete, I'm very careful about what I put in my body, and I've researched a lot about caffeine specifically to ensure it can fit into my life as a pro athlete. My 4 golden rules for coffee and caffeine intake are as follows. In the morning, 1 glass of water and 30+ minutes awake before my first coffee. This is in order to maximize caffeine absorption and to simply stay hydrated. Number 2, less than 3 cups of coffee per day. And number 3, no caffeine after 2 p.m. unless there's an emergency energy boost needed. And number 4, on game day, I'll have a cup of coffee, minimum dose of caffeine, 1.5 hours before game time. For breakfast, I know you were hoping to see an American crack some eggs and fry some bacon. However, the team nutritionist I have here has told me to prioritize carbs in the morning before a practice because they are the quickest and fastest energy source. He recommended some sort of grain plus fruit. I do feel lighter and less sluggish with this type of breakfast, and well, the peanut butter, it simply just reminds me of home. I'm fortunate to have a balcony at my place this year, and I try to utilize it as much as possible for the fresh air and calmness it brings to my mornings. One aspect of my morning that I started doing the last year was my intention journal. I believe it's made a huge difference in terms of giving me something to focus on and evaluate myself on each day. It's like the saying, don't count the days, make the days count. Goal setting and mindfulness are a huge aspect of not just the life of a pro athlete, but I believe a healthy human being. After my breakfast, I get ready for the day. Now today is a Thursday during our preseason and we have a team lift lined up this morning. For reference, this is a typical preseason week breakdown for me here at Benfica. During the season, if we have a game in a week, the schedule would change slightly in that we wouldn't have any heavy trainings or lifts the day before. During the preseason, we have 2-a-days and are trying to get everyone into top physique before the season brings, so it's a bit nuanced schedule. Now, all clubs are different, but in essence, it will boil down to a similar schedule of team practices, weight room workouts, and skill trainings. At around 8:50 a.m., I head to the gym. By the way, I was provided this apartment in this car as part of my contract this year with Benfica. This is typical, but also not guaranteed or standard. It depends on your role in the team, the league, and the club itself. My rookie year in Belgrade, Serbia, I did not have the luxury of a car, but did get my housing paid for. You don't get a lot of say in those aspects in terms of location, size, especially early in your career. But as you elevate and your resume improves, the more leverage you have in terms of contract negotiations. Essentially, the more value you bring to the team, the more they will reciprocate. So, for aspiring young hoopers, don't have crazy expectations when you first come overseas. I normally get to practice 15 to 30 minutes before the team lift in order to get in some of my own mobility and rehab work for any nagging injuries or aches and pains that I have. Today I had to come even earlier because it was a weigh-in day. Our team nutritionist tracks our weight bi-weekly in order to notice any irregular variability, which could point to dehydration or some deficit in our diets. Obviously, just our weight numbers is not going to tell the whole story, but it can be an indicator that some sort of adjustment may need to be made. After weigh-in, I stopped by the training room for some much-needed heat and massage on an area in my calf that I had some weird tightness in. 15 minutes or so of that, and then I'm to the weight room for some mobility and prehab work before the team weight room session. I feel like I have my mobility routine dialed to my body and my chronic areas of tightness. This is a routine I found works best for me, but each body is different, so there's definitely value in tailoring your mobility routine to your own body. The focus of today's prehab is to address a nagging AC joint sprain. The AC joint, this is where your shoulder and collarbone connect, as well as my chronic knee tendonitis. Some scapular retraction exercises for my shoulder and some isometrics for my knees. I found a huge benefit from being consistent in prehab work, even if the symptoms seem to be lessening. The key to prehab work is being proactive instead of reactive. Now from the prehab, I get straight into the team lift. My strength coach here makes individualized plans for each player that gets uploaded to an app we refer to during each workout. The workouts are adapted to our game schedule and overall on-court workload of each particular week. Since working with my strength coach here in Benfica, I've seen huge improvements in terms of my quality of movement that has directly translated to my on-court performance. I believe the main reasons are the adaptability of our workout plan and the clear intentions behind each workout. Both of these ideas can be implemented into your own weight room training program, and I promise you they will pay huge dividends. Now, if you want a complete PDF of all of today's workouts, hit the link in this video's bio. Once finished in the weight room and before I get on the court for team practice, I'll power down a granola bar and some gummies for some fast-acting carbs. Now on the court, our team practice usually lasts between 1.5 to 2 hours, with the main live competition part varying based on the proximity of our next game. Out of respect for the privacy of our team, I usually won't film once practice begins. Just know that we put in some serious work preparing for our big game coming up against European powerhouse Real Madrid. After practice, I'll ice my knees and shoulder for 10 to 15 minutes for pain management. Then I'll have a quick shower and throw back a post-practice shake. My shake consists of 2.5 scoops of whey protein, equaling more or less 65 grams of protein, plus 5 grams of creatine. I use some cold water out of the team fridge because everybody knows a cold protein shake is night and day better than a room temperature one. There's some weird stigma around creatine that you will add water weight and be big and bulky. Reality is this supplement is one of the most tested and proven aids to strength and muscular gains, as well as cognitive health. You get bulky and stiff from how you are lifting and not creatine. In terms of daily vitamins, the team provides the basics with a multivitamin, omega-3 fish oil, and some tart cherry extract. I try to stay really consistent both with the post-practice shake and the daily vitamins because if used sporadically, their benefit decreases significantly. Today, I'm officially done and leaving the facility at about 1:30 p.m. Typically, we have the late afternoons and evenings to ourselves. This has been true throughout my career overseas, besides my first 2 years in Belgrade, Serbia, but there is also an exception of 2-a-days during preseason. For lunch, I'll usually eat at a cafe or pick something up on the way home. Today, I went with the acai bowl. My stomach tends to be pretty sensitive to the protein shakes, so my lunches are normally really light. The weather is incredible in Lisbon right now, with it being around 80 to 90 degrees each day. I was not going to take a nap today, but my body and mind needed it, so I respected it and fell asleep on the ground for an hour or so. I swear, sometimes the ground feels more comfortable than the bed. After my nap, I needed to put some energy into my body as I have my late afternoon skill workout back at the stadium. Something quick and easy like an energy bar, some fruit and nuts do the trick. Nothing too heavy. I get to the gym and some of my teammates are also still around doing their own routines. Today was about establishing my rhythm and preparing for the upcoming game against Real Madrid. I start with very light movement and balanced form shooting. These drills are to sync my shot and movement through a variety of situations that include off the catch, dribble pull-up, sidestep, and step back. Next, I will get into some game-like scenarios. Our next opponent plays a lot of high flat or drop ball screen coverage with their bigs, Serge Ibaka and Eddie Tavares, so today we simulated that. Pay attention to the pace of my repetitions and the emphasis on imagining the defense. Having my performance coach Thiago use the defender sticks added the element of the high contest from the dropping big man. To start the cooldown of the workout, we did some catch and shoots off of dynamic footwork. The key to these are to move into the pass and redirect your energy from the catch to the shot as seamlessly as possible. Then we did some touch shots from 3 different footworks, a hop, a left to right, and a right to left. And then I hit 10 free throws in a row. I like to keep my afternoon skill workouts to under an hour, focusing on quality of reps, attention to detail, and level of intention. Again, if you want the full PDF of this afternoon skill workout completely free, the link will be in the description. It's now 6:30 p.m. and sadly I had no groceries at home, so we had to stop by the grocery store. Tonight we are making some lemon pesto salmon with baked carrots and white rice. Shout out to my beautiful wife for putting me on with this recipe. By this time of day, I was well below my needed caloric intake, so we really had to go big for dinner. Each year as I adjust to a new country I'm living in, the grocery store is usually a source of anxiety and frustration, having to navigate both the new language and the differing product offerings. Since this is my second year in Portugal, these grocery runs are now a walk in the park and are actually rather enjoyable. Something I've noticed in my time abroad has been that the average food quality is much higher in Europe versus the United States. I find produce and meats to be much fresher. For example, eggs are not refrigerated in Europe due to having less washing requirements, allowing them to keep their natural protective coating, making them safe to be sold at room temperature. Also, grocery prices in Portugal are much cheaper than the US. For this grocery run, the total was 36 euros or so, with 1,000 grams of salmon costing the majority at 22 euros. I think in the US, Carly and I were spending about 60 to 80 bucks per grocery run. I'm finally getting home. Another cultural element here. In the US, we're cooking dinner a bit earlier than this. In Portugal and a lot of Southern European countries, they're eating dinner at like 10 p.m. I'm not there yet, but I know during the off season, I'd already be eating by now. I'm not gonna make this into a cooking episode, so just know this is about the extent of my cooking knowledge. I'm pretty proud of the end result though. Maybe one day we'll launch a Trey Fillets cookbook. I was honestly starving, so I had a pre-meal melon snack to tide me over right after the workout and while the salmon was cooking. I invited my buddy Guy over to break bread in the new apartment. I actually didn't know it at the time, but this new apartment is much closer to his spot, so I'll probably do this more often. Something that's not really talked about much in my opinion is the loneliness of playing abroad. Especially if you're not from Europe or a similar time zone of where you're playing, it can be brutal. For us in the US, it's really hard to stay in touch with friends and family, and in your day-to-day, you basically only have teammates and coaching staff who you might spend significant time with. I've been fortunate to have some friends I've made over the past years here in Portugal, as well as a great group of teammates, but it's a big factor and part of the grind of overseas basketball. Now, after dinner, I had organized to get my hair cut because I was looking pretty shaggy. A big blessing for haircuts in Europe compared to US is the quality and price. This at-home haircut cost me 30 euros, and for the same service in the US, it would be around $100 or more. Obviously, it's case to case, but I feel like European barbers take their time much more and are more meticulous. You definitely get way more bang for your buck on haircuts out here. Guy and the barber headed out, and I tried to get a hold of Carly one last time before I winded down and settled in for the night. At this time, this is her morning/early afternoon. It's a nice ritual for us to try and check in once a day if she's not in Portugal, and it's a big part of the overseas hustle, especially if you're in a long distance relationship. I'm lucky in that Carly has been willing to live abroad with me in different countries like Poland, Germany, and now Portugal, and support me throughout my career. She'll come out again this year and even has found a Pilates studio she can teach lessons at. How soon are you going to be here?
I don't know. The more you beg.
The sooner or the longer?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
This day in the life has been informative and kind of painted a more brutally honest picture of what it's truly like playing basketball overseas. Being a pro athlete in any sport, it's going to take a lot of sacrifices, and there's going to be a lot of pain points that maybe you didn't expect when you first kind of like had this dream. So hopefully this gave you a little more insight into those. But I will tell you one thing. All the stuff that you have to go through, it's all minuscule in the grand scheme because I'm living my dream, playing basketball, making a living, and exploring the world with my family. I wouldn't trade it for the world. So I hope you guys learned a little bit of something. And if you want to keep following along on my journey, make sure you guys like and subscribe. And as always, get uncomfortable and live atypical. Cheers. She got highs and lows. She said, yeah, I know. Wish I can make it easier. I just know right and wrong.